share just some information. We'll try not to go too deep into the rabbit hole, and it can be quite the rabbit hole. But at the end, we'll give you some contact information and some resources so you can do your own research and decide for yourself what's right for you, and then what kind of information you might want to share with your kids. First, a little bit about me. My name is Allie Bergmann. I am the Executive Director for North River Prevention Partners. I have a certification as a prevention professional from the Florida Certification Board and a Master's of Science in Family, Youth, and Community Science from the University of Florida. I've been working in prevention for about 5 years. Prior to that, I was a substance abuse treatment counselor, and I've been working in substance abuse on and off on volunteer basis and as a professional for going on about 18, 19 years now. So, who is North River Prevention Partners? I can almost promise you've never heard of us. We're brand new. We were just awarded a DFC grant last year. So we are federally funded through what used to be SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, but now our grant is overseen by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention as of October 1st. Our mission is to create community partnerships to implement universal substance abuse prevention strategies to promote the health and safety of individuals across the lifespan, especially among youth. To that end, we partner with Drug Free Manatee to bring a youth program to our North River high schools called Youth in Action. Each 3 of our North River high schools has a Youth in Action team: Parish Community, Manatee School for the Arts, and Palmetto High School. These teams are high school students who work on their campuses to address issues of substance abuse and mental health using universal prevention strategies, and they're trained by us. So we're really, really proud of all of the work that they do. If you're interested in your teen joining, or you're interested in your teen in joining, we're going to leave our contact information at the end, and you can contact us about who that faculty advisor is on your campus. Now, a little bit about what universal prevention strategies really are. It means that everybody, regardless of risk factors, receives the same information. So you might look at it as a program kids go through in school. The DARE program is a universal prevention. Botvin's Life Skills is universal prevention. Anything that provides the same information to an audience, regardless of risk, is considered a universal prevention strategy. We also do what's called upstream strategies. Now, just to give you a little analogy, you may have heard this before. If you were standing on a riverbank and someone came floating down and they were drowning, and so you throw them a rope and you pull them out of the river, and somebody else comes down, you throw them a rope and pull them out of the river, and pretty soon the river is full of drowning people and you don't have enough resources to get them all out. So what would you do? Well, instead of putting your resources to get, all these people out, and you can't still do that, you can't accomplish getting everybody out, you might take some of those resources and go upstream to find out why they're falling in the first place. If you can reduce the number of people who fall into the stream, you automatically increase your resources and your ability to pull the ones out who do fall in. So that's kind of where our work lies. We try to keep them from falling into the stream in the first place, just using information, science, evidence-based programming, and things like that. Good old conversations like we're going to have tonight. So one of the things that I want to tell you about is the vaping is how big of a problem is it? We all heard how really it's become quite there you go. It's become quite prevalent for our teens, and there's no mistaking that it absolutely has. In fact, it's overtaken alcohol as the #1 used substance by teens in Manatee County, not by a lot, but it has. And that's pretty remarkable given the social acceptance that alcohol actually has. So it's alarming to know that it's overtaken alcohol. But there's some really, really good news in here too. We use data from the Florida Substance Abuse Youth Survey given every year by the Department of Children and Families. It's given to middle school students and high school students across the state of Florida. It is usually given between January and March of every year. This year, they were able to get the survey out to students before COVID shut it down. but the sample size isn't really large this year, but it was large enough for them to come up with a data table and to give us some nugget of information to go on as we're informing our policies and procedures and the programming that we do for kids and how we're structuring that. So for your information, uh, Manatee high school students, and when I say Manatee, I mean the countywide, not the high school. Manatee high school students, 30-day use of nicotine vapes. Now, I want to be very clear here. 30-day use is important because it indicates regular use. Lifetime use indicates that a student has at least tried it once. 30-day use is what we usually go by when we're developing programs because we don't want kids using, but we certainly don't want them using regularly. So our 30-day use rate in Manatee County for high school students is almost 17%. And then our youth rate, or excuse me, our 30-day use rate for middle school students in Manatee County is almost 7%. That's not, every kid. That's not half the kids. It's certainly not most of the kids. And so that's really, really good news for us. There's a little something in there that can, some kids can find themselves in danger because not everybody's doing it, but the perception that everybody's doing it can be a dangerous gray area for students. So one of the things we like to do when we're talking to youth and we're explaining these data tables to them is that it's really important to remember that they're not using and they are in the vast majority of kids who aren't using. And this is actually across the board too for all substances. Most of our kids are not drinking. Most of our kids aren't smoking weed and most of our kids are not vaping. But here's an interesting point. About 80, almost 81% of our high school students think it's wrong for themselves to vape nicotine, which is really actually very good. But only 72, almost 73% of them say their friends think it's wrong. So there's a gap there in that students who think it's wrong for them to vape and what they think their friends think. And that's a really important thing to address when you're talking to youth about what's really going on. And for middle school students, that number is 93% think that it's wrong for them to vape, but almost 88% of them think that their friends think it's wrong for them to vape. Again, there's a gap there that we need to address. We need to close that gap and let kids know that the social norm really is to not use. And that's our whole reason for any piece of information we put out is to create that social norm for them, to make it comfortable for them to live in their skin, to say no, to develop refusal, coping mechanisms, and all those good things we really want our kids to have when we think about resiliency. These are the protective factors that we're trying to build when we address these factors. And that's really super local. So we know that those kids, our kids in Manatee County, are good kids, but it's really important that we talk to them too. So I want to make sure that you as parents have that information. And if you're a teen and you're watching, then we want to make sure that you have that information as well. So maybe you can share it with your friends. So let's talk about where kids are vaping because it's not legal for them to. Recently, our governor vetoed the bill across his desk that would have raised the age of purchase of tobacco products to 21. So in Florida, that age is still 18. So some of our high school seniors, probably almost most of our high school seniors, would be legally allowed to purchase these vapes. Of course, that opens up the doors for any other underclassmen. And so once one kid has access, it seems that other kids get access as well. Access is a lot easier than you might think. And so one of the things that I wanted to share with you was the ease of how these kids can get it. Now, there are stores, unscrupulous store owners who sell to students, some of it on purpose. Sometimes they don't really understand, but they're not carding the kids either. But the other is online. It's really, really easy to go online and order vapes of all shapes and sizes. You can get tanks and you can get mods and you can get jewels. And the only thing you can't get anymore, which I was kind of interested to hear, are puff bars. If you're a parent and you've never heard of a puff bar, I'm not surprised. If you're a teen, you have definitely heard of a puff bar. The newest thing in vapes, moms and dads, is that they're disposable nowadays, and puff bars are disposable. And the reason that that is that by being a disposable device, they get around the federal law for the flavors. So I took the liberty of going online and I rechecked myself this afternoon about the ease of ordering these products online. And it simply is you check a box, are you 18? Or some of them say, are you 21? And then you can purchase a disposable device with complete with a pod, which is the e-juice, complete with a pod for about between $6 and $13, and have it sent to your house, and then you're good to go. It's and then it if you get caught at school and the SRO takes it away or the dean takes it away, no big deal. It was disposable anyway. So they're incredibly affordable and they're easy to get, and they come in just a myriad of delicious flavors. One particular brand had 17 different flavors, and they were banana pudding and watermelon ice and just all these delicious sounding flavors that if I were quitting smoking, I probably wouldn't use, banana pudding flavored vape to do it. So very clearly targeted to young people, and targeted not necessarily to people who are quitting smoking, but to people who are beginning to vape. And that is actually a large number of vapors are especially young adults, they've never smoked a cigarette. They started their nicotine habit with a vape, and that's important to remember too. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that is an important addiction to address. The other thing that I did, and I want to point out, I told you about the availability of these devices, and even in the store. So I went and I bought this. I don't know if you can see it. It's called the Leap, and it's a device kit. This one did not come with the pod. The pods were sold separately. I will say that. And the device itself is very sleek looking. It's nice and thin. It's about 3.5 inches, and it's rechargeable, and you just take it with its magnetic charger, and then you can plug it in and you're good to go. You put your pod in, and you're good to go. This can be used with either a nicotine or a THC uh, pod, and it's 99 cents at Circle K in Parish. So these are super affordable. I don't know a teen who doesn't have 99 cents. I'm hoping that clerks and store managers would be responsible enough to card our kids. But again, an enterprising young student of age could go in and purchase quite a lot of these. I purchased three in one go. So we want to keep that in mind too. The price point is definitely something that is attractive to teens. They're vaping at school, of course. If you have a teen at one of our local high schools, you might have heard them complain about locked bathrooms. What happens is that the students go to the bathroom to vape, and once they're caught, the bathroom gets locked, and the students can no longer access the bathroom to vape. But they can also not access the bathroom to go to the bathroom. Unfortunately, the schools just don't have enough faculty or staff to man every bathroom every minute of the day, especially now with COVID and the different learning and teaching modalities. There just isn't enough people. They can't afford the vape detectors. Those are about $1,200 to $1,700 a piece, and so it's quite easy for students to get away with it, especially now in an upside down world. But they also vape in their cars, and they vape at home, and they vape in the park, and they vape in well, I guess we don't really have malls per se anymore, but they go vape at the store, they go vape with their friends. And it's super easy because it smells like banana pudding, it smells like watermelon ice, it smells like strawberry fields. Um, you don't necessarily know that they're vaping. The other part is that it's very discreet. I can have this hidden in my hand and you might not know. I can sit in class like this and the teacher's not going to know. And actually that's something that I've heard from several students, that students do that. They'll vape in class, put the exhale into their shirt and nobody's the wiser. And it just smells like somebody has sprayed some sort of a fruit flavored something in the air. And it's rather disturbing, but of course, that's all designed that way to be discreet, to be able to be hidden. Um, and the other thing is some of the products. Now, this I can't say that I've talked to a couple of SROs. They have not been um, uh, confiscating these types of materials, but I want to show you a couple of things that I'm wearing. One of them is this watch. This watch, it does work. Um, it does tell the time, but if you're looking at it, you might not, as an adult, you might not like think twice about what's on my wrist, but it's actually a vape, and it just comes out. Oh, there it goes. See, you can see that that it's working there, and it just pops out like that. And this is an empty cartridge, and you can get bottles of e-juice at any tobacco shop, smoke shop, head shop, and you just fill that up, and then you've got your favorite e-juice or THC, and you can put it right back in, pop it right back into your watch, and then you're good to go, and no one knows the difference. The other is the shirt that I'm wearing. I don't know if you guys can see this. It's just a regular t-shirt hoodie, or so it seems, and it's really it's kind of cool, you know. I probably don't look very cool in it, but it's kind of cool. But the strings, this string right here is, oh, sorry, that's the mouthpiece. It goes in and it comes around my hood and comes over to the device. This is a jewel. It fits around. This has got an empty pot in it. I don't know if you can see that. It fits around and then it goes right into these slim little pockets. It tucks right in, and I can walk around anywhere with my vape ready to go and ready to use at a moment's notice. Um, this watch I purchased over the summer for $25. It was on sale from 30. So it's probably one of the uh, it's not out of reach for most teens, but $25 is a lot, and I think that maybe a lot of teens wouldn't go so far as to do something like this. Like I said, SROs have not reported confiscating these types of things, and we've done our best to make sure that those who need to know about these types of products, because it's t-shirts, it's sweatshirts, it's watches, it's regular ink pens. The have writing pens that are vapes as well. So they are really vape pens. So these types of things aren't made for people who are quitting smoking cigarettes. They're not made for middle-aged moms like myself who are working hard to quit a nicotine habit. These are made to be surreptitious. These are made to be hidden, and they're made to be deceitful. So who needs to be deceitful about vaping? If you're over 18, you don't. But if you're on a school campus and you're under 18, then you do. So it's quite clear to me and to most adults that this is not for somebody quitting smoking. These are the things that are available at the click of a mouse. The t-shirt, by the way, was $15. So it's available at the click of a mouse for these kids. You check a box, and there's no other um, they don't ask you to scan in your ID or anything like that. I don't know how you would, but it just makes it really, really easy for them to get. And it's also really clear that they're being targeted to manufacturers. I mean, we already know that the adolescent brain is primed for addiction anyway. And it's been decades and decades where big tobacco was targeting young people because they knew that if you get hooked, they've got you, and they've got you for life in most cases. So nicotine is among the top 5 most addictive substances in the world. It's right up there with cocaine and heroin, and it's incredibly hard to quit. If you've ever tried, you know what I'm talking about. And so, uh, so they know that once they get them, they got them, and that's a real marketing strategy for them. And the other part of this is to know what types of nicotine these kids are getting. They're getting Nick salt. Do you know what Nick salt is? Nic salt is a nicotine salt, and it carries more nicotine per pull than like regular cigarette would. But not only that, it eases the throat hit that you might get with a regular vape nicotine. So nicotine salts or Nic salts are what everybody is using these days. It seems when I was online today, all of the disposable uh, uh, devices that I came across, every single one of them advertised that they use Nic salt. And so it just delivers more nicotine per draw. And more nicotine means a faster addiction, quite frankly. And of course, mixed with the flavors that they have, and mixed with the fact that it's not unpleasant. If you ever tried a cigarette when you were 12 or 13 years old, and it hit the back of your throat and it made you cough, maybe it made you sick, um, that's what the throat hit is, and that's what nicotine salt eliminates. So nicotine salt is bad for our kids for sure. The other thing is that you might kid might say, but it's not nicotine. It's just e-juice. And while they do sell nicotine-free e-juice, you can't be sure that it is. This is still a highly unregulated industry. They are fighting tooth and nail against regulation. And so right now the FDA doesn't have any real regulation against in within this industry. So when the kids go, even if they go to a legitimate shop and they buy a legitimate pod, they can't be sure that it doesn't have nicotine in it. But even if it doesn't, it's not just water vapor. It's still not necessarily safe for their lungs. It's got chromium and nickel, which come from the heated up coils of the vaporizer. You do have to heat the coils, in order to get that liquid into an aerosol. And the other points that even the term aerosol, it's misty liquid, right? So what happens when aerosol recondenses? It becomes the liquid again, and it recondenses in the lungs. So we are seeing more lung injuries. Before COVID, there was E. Valley. I don't know if you've heard that term. That was lung disease. There were over 60 deaths in the United States because of it. Now, most of that was because of THC pods or black market pods. But the reasoning still stands. If your kids can't get it legally, they'll get it illegally, some of them. So we have to really make sure that we're coming down. We know what's in these. There's also could be formaldehyde. We all know what that is. Uh, and flavorings chemicals. That doesn't sound awful, because usually flavorings chemicals are okay orally. What we don't know is if they're okay to be inhaled. And let's remember that this ultimately is inhaled. If this anything that comes out of these devices goes right into your lungs. Propylene glycol, which is the chemical that is responsible for popcorn lung when it's heated, it becomes propylene oxide, and that is a known carcinogen. And then glycerins, there's regular glycerin, there's vegetable glycerin, and glycerin is kind of like an oily substance. It gives a viscosity to the e-liquid and allows it to stay on the coil while it heats to aerosolize, right? That's oil still. And so that's definitely not something that you want to be inhaling. In fact, when doctors were studying the strange, what at that time were the strange lung diseases that these kids were coming across, and they weren't all kids, but that was happening, they found that vitamin E acetate was actually the main culprit. And that was one of the ingredients to give it a viscosity. And while vitamin E is wonderful for your skin and your hair, and you can even take capsules of vitamin E by swallowing it is still different than inhaling it. So we want to make sure that our children know that it's not water vapor. One of the things I do like to tell them, though, is that even if it were water vapor, it's still water in your lungs, and that's not something that you want either. So it's really important when we're talking about vaping, especially to our young kids. And if you haven't, and you got a fourth or a fifth grader, start talking about that. It's really important to start talking about your kids really young about your particular beliefs and values regarding substances, probably younger than you think. But that's actually a topic for maybe another Facebook Live event for North River. You really definitely want to talk to your kids about what they think is in these pods. What do they think is there? Do they think they're harmless? Do they think that they're safe? Um, they have been shown to be safer than regular cigarettes, but they haven't been shown to be safe. And at the very beginning, Juul was actually advertising these to kids as harmless. There's congressional testimony stating that fact. So they still get the message that this is harmless, that this is really no big deal. And you might be thinking too, well, it's really no big deal. It's not alcohol, it's not marijuana. So if it doesn't affect their brain function and their judgment the same way alcohol and marijuana do, what's the big deal? The big deal is that it sets the brain up for addiction. Nicotine addiction in itself affects the heart, the lungs, almost every major organ in some negative fashion, increases blood pressure. And so nicotine itself is not good. But when you think about what's going on in the adolescent brain from the age of, say, 12 to 20, there's so much going on. Now, the neurons that your 6-year-old had in their brain, your curious little 6-year-old putting the puzzles together, that brain has started to shut down and jettison unneeded neurons and pathways. By the time your little 6-year-old turns 14, that person is much more efficient in their thinking and their cognitive and their motor skills. And so the brain is then at high efficiency level for learning. That's all it does. It's the only job of the adolescent brain is to learn. Addiction is a learning process, period. It doesn't matter the substance, it doesn't matter the behavior, it doesn't matter. Substance use disorder is a learning process. And like all other drugs and substances, like alcohol and marijuana, nicotine floods the brain's reward system with dopamine. So it does make them feel good. It doesn't affect their judgment in the same way, and it doesn't affect their the brain function in the same way, but it can affect the brain development. And that's why it's so important that we talk to our kids. We just talk to them about the importance of delaying substance use until the age of at least 21. Um, and that is really why we want to raise those age of purchase laws. It has nothing to do with being an adult. It has nothing to do with making your own choices and being able to decipher good from bad. It has everything to do with brain development. And even at 18, we know now your brain's developing well into your 20s. If we can get folks to stay away from all that stuff until they're 21, they're much less likely, and I mean like 90% less likely to develop a substance use disorder, and it gives themselves the best chance to fully develop their brain and to really reach that potential. And that's something that we always tell students when we're talking to them, that once you close off one of those pathways, your brain has to make a new one to relearn that same thing, and that is not always an easy process. Sometimes those, and depending on the substance, of course, sometimes those pathways are never regained, and that learning is lost and the development is lost. So there's a obviously a lot more science behind all of that, and way too much for us to go in here. I find it fascinating. You all might not. Um, so it's something, though, that we try to impart to our community. It's something that we want to make sure you all are aware of, some of the work that we're doing. And we just want to keep our kids safe, and we want to give you the information to keep your kids safe. One of the things that I was doing today while I was preparing for this presentation for you all is I was looking up some resources for you, because Lord knows I am not the end all be all. I look up my resources just like everybody else in the world. I don't hold my own, I don't have my own research lab. I can't give you my peer reviewed anything. So what I do is I rely on some really stellar sources, and I want you to as well. So I'm going to share those with you if I can figure out how to share my screen here. Um, let's see. I can't see it anymore, but I can tell you that I can hold up. There we go. I can hold this up and I can read them to you. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. And I will post this on the website right after. I'll post the website. So the resources that we always like to go to are obviously reliable sources. I don't use High Times Magazine. I don't use any obviously biased resources. I try to use medical resources, and I try to always use peer-reviewed studies when I'm making determinations and things like that. So you can rely on the information here. The very first one is Hopkins, of course, is North River Prevention Partners .org. That's our website. You can go there for more information on all of this stuff, but also hopkinsmedicine.org. If you search vaping, they have some really, really excellent articles by Dr. Blaha, Blaha. He is an expert in the field, and he's written several really, really good articles about the dangers of vaping, and they're true. It's not to be scary to anybody. It's not to overstate a case. I don't think that that's necessary when it comes to prevention, to overstate your case, but it's just what the research shows. This isn't safe. It might be safer than smoking, but it doesn't mean it's safe at all. So I encourage you to look for him. He's a medical doctor and he has a master's in public health. So he's a very reliable source. Drugabuse.org. If you go to drug topics in the menu on the menu bar, you can find information on every substance and that you can think of, and some that you've never even heard of. This is a website run by the National Institute on Drug Abuse, or NIDA, and they fall under the heading of the National Institute of Health. So this is where I get all of my my brain chemistry information, and all that good stuff. If that's something that appeals to you, I definitely suggest you check out NIDA's drugabuse.org. The next would be the cdc.gov. The CDC has got some great information, although you will have to search youth vaping to get the information they have on that, but it's good stuff. I encourage you to do that as well. And of course, SAMHSA, SAMHSA.gov, search youth vaping. They also have some really great information. And SAMHSA really has some great information for mental health too. Also, another topic for another day. But the gold standard of all of it, and what I really, really encourage all kids, all parents, grandparents, guardians, aunts, uncles, everybody to go visit truthinitiative.org. They are behind all those really super cool CGI commercials. They have just a wealth of information about vaping, about smoking, what it does to your lungs, what it does to your brain, and it's just so well done. They are actually funded by the 1998 Big Tobacco uh, um, lawsuit that some of you might remember, where Big Tobacco had to give billions and billions and billions of dollars to tobacco use prevention, and Truth Initiative came out of it, and they are just excellent. Um, they have info for parents. And the other thing is this: teens can get help quitting from the truthinitiative.org. Now, that's something that has never existed before because it's illegal for kids under 18 to use nicotine. There was never an avenue for them to go and quit nicotine. They can choose to do chats, they can choose to do text messaging, and it's anonymous, or as anonymous as they want it to be. And it's something that is set up just for them. Last spring, I went on and I pretended to be my own 16-year-old or 17-year-old daughter at the time, and I pretended to be her. I just wanted to see what they had to offer, and it was really quite nice. They wanted to know my age and my gender and my first name. Because then I had a choice. Did I want to talk to only girls or only boys? Did I want a mixed group? Did I want an LGBTQ group? Did I want an African American group? Did I want a Hispanic group? So they had all these groups that you could join if you felt that you needed to connect with people who were just like you. I just thought it was really, really well done. And so I always have told kids, if you're not vaping, but you know somebody who is, please steer them to this website. It's amazing. And it's just something that I think we can all gain some knowledge from. Parents, you get to learn how to talk to your kids about it. It's amazing stuff. I love it. Absolutely love it. Um, I kept it to 30 minutes like I was kind of hoping. But next, let me get a hold of uh, my resource page there. And you know what? I probably won't be able to do that because that was only on my screen. Gosh dang it. But I will tell you this. You can message us here on Facebook, North River Prevention Partners, and you can email me, Allie Bergmann, at BERGMANN .NRPP@gmail.com. Or you could email our Youth and Media Program Coordinator, Kristen Olson, at KOLSEN .nrpp or excuse me at gmail.com. So that's again KOLSEN.nrpp@gmail.com. And we'll be happy to answer any questions for you that you have, or to give you more resources if you'd like. Like I said, I'll put this resource page up on our Facebook page. I'll also put our emails or contact information so you can contact us about that. And don't forget, if you have any questions about Youth in Action, we'd love to answer those questions for you and get you in touch with your school's faculty advisor. You guys have a great night. Thank you so much for tuning in. Whenever you did, I really appreciate it. Next month, we're going to do another Community Prevention 101. And I think we're going to do one on mental health next month. But if you have ideas or suggestions, let us know that too. We'd like to know what you want to know, and try to find those answers for you. So y'all have a good night and we'll be seeing you later. Bye.